is here. PMAPers. Wow. Looks to me like this is your bright and early morning. All right. I'm very excited, yes, to introduce two wonderful speakers today. I will be wondering why two. I was expecting one, but then you know. Our first speaker is Advocacy Lead of ILeto, which he joined in 2015. He is half Filipino and half American, born and raised in the USA. He traveled to Japan, he's been to UK, Thailand, and Cambodia, and yet he chose to stay in the Philippines. In 2013, that's when he relocated here to teach in Cross Naligas Elementary School, and there saw malasakit in action. The students that he had came from the less privileged families in the Philippines. And there was one time he saw a polio kid helped by the other kids, and they taught each other how to read and study. And he was so touched by that. As events would have it, in other words, our second speaker calls it the universe. The universal laws, the magnet, created some magnets. And in 2017, our second speaker secured funding for a study on country brand. Since then, events have proven that the findings in the study are true. And let me give you an idea who our next speaker is. She is Sutherland's Senior Director for Corporate Marketing, Corporate Philippines, China, and Malaysia. And Sutherland is in the business transformation, process transformation industry with 10 sites in the Philippines and 20,000 employees nationwide. Our speaker started conceptualizing a project, an advocacy for a country brand in 2007. And so it means she has not stopped working ever since. It's been there, it's burning in her heart and her spirit. She noticed, of course, Filipinos are customer-centric, and no amount of automation can replace malasakit. And ladies and gentlemen, this lady is very special. She is one of the 100 most influential Filipino women in the world. She was given this award in 2015. So let me call first on the person who did the study, of course, with the funds that were secured by our second speaker. So our second speaker, of course, is Salceda, ILeto, while our first speaker is Adam Crane. Let me welcome up front Adam.
Is this working? Can everyone hear me? Great. Thank you for the very kind MMK introduction to who I am and what moved me here. We'll begin, as was said, with a background on the research of why we know this to be true, that malasakit is the key differentiator in the Philippines country strategy, and proceed to Ms. Cathy's explanation of how Sutherland has been really living this out since its inception. Why is it important for the Philippines, our country, to brand itself? The positives, of course, is that we've emerged as an attractive investment hub in the Asia-Pacific region, whether this is because of our membership in the ASEAN, whether this is because our people are known for being fun and friendly, whether this is because we're top of mind for tourism, our beautiful beaches, our accommodating people. At the same time, we are in a constant state of tumult I don't really need to expand too much on this. In economic terms, our GDP has been on a general decrease. Actually, as of this year, we've hit a record low. Our political situation is marred by constant uncertainty as debates over sovereignty, as debates over human rights, as debates over contractualization run abound. And as digital gives rise to a new culture, Filipinos can now demand greater accountability from their institutions, ours included. And while this is all happening, other countries are rising to the occasion. India, for example, has their Make in India campaign, which really promotes local manufacturing as a driver. Thailand has similar campaigns promoting the service with a smile, which we've all come to associate with the country. Malaysia has enjoyed generous government incentives to support its outsourcing needs and brands. With all of these things, it stands to question what can we do to position ourselves as the premier country, the premier investment hub. And without that, or without a country brand rather, we really can't position ourselves as the place to be, whether we are local or whether we are investors. So, as the introduction indicated, in 2017, Ms. Kathy and I embarked on a research study to see what people both in and outside the Philippines think of us. We did this through 4 key approaches. We wanted to know what locators think about us. What do the people who are currently here? Something must be keeping them here, right? Otherwise they would have packed up and left. The next is the non-locators. We're not a perfect country, and if we were, everyone would be here. How come people aren't here? Or how come people have left? We wanted to know what we call influencers, not necessarily the way that they would refer to influencers, but influencers meaning the analysts, the local, the global, the experts, the subject matter experts, as well as internal perception. We've been talking to investors, C-suites, the decision makers, but what about the average Juan de la Cruz who couldn't be bothered to care about what's happening in a board meeting? They just want to make sure that they have enough food for their wife and children when they come home from work. So we asked the questions we see above. How easy is it to do business in the Philippines? Is it easy to do business in the Philippines? How competitive are we as a nation, if we are even competitive to begin with? How do we remain stable in a world that is constantly changing, and a country, as we all know, that is also constantly changing, whether for better or for worse? And with all of this, what are the key factors to attracting investment in the Philippines? We did this through 4 approaches. The first was the old-fashioned desk research, whether that's through print or online sources. We stuck with the times, we caught on to the social media trends, and we used proprietary research tools for the young group to listen into what people are saying online, both within the Philippines and in our competitor regions, which I'll actually show later on in the presentation. Research, as we all know, is an acute combination of qualitative and quantitative data. So to call the quantitative data, we distributed thousands, literally, of perception surveys within and outside the Philippines. And to support the quantitative data, we conducted interviews with key decision makers. And this is what we found. Locally, the need persists for infrastructural development. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. I saw a lot of nods. I think we're all familiar with what this means, whether it's how we've just become so complacent with being stuck in traffic, or so complacent with internet that's moving at a glacial pace. The people that we have interviewed note that this is also a symptom of our regulatory environment, how it's not just internet, it's not just traffic, it's also how impossible it can be networking with the correct bodies that allow things like construction to take place, so that the fast internet can be built, so that the freeways that allow us to get from point A to point B in the same 24 hours can be developed. New investors may be deterred by perceptions of political instability. I really want to clarify that it's not necessarily that we have debates over the correct way to govern, or debates over the correct way to have child rights, the correct way to address issues like sexual deviance, drug wars, the LGBT rights movement. What the investors are terrified of is that the messaging is not clear. And even though we've been consistently hailed as being the best English-speaking country in the ASEAN, which I will actually still defend, we're at risk because other countries in the region, the Vietnams, the Malaysias, have stepped up to the plate to make sure that we're not number one anytime soon. Further to my point, because these countries are stepping up, we can't afford to be complacent. So, I mentioned Malaysia, Thailand, and India earlier, but that's only scratching the surface of who we were really looking at when we refer to who are our competition if we want to think of countries this way. So in our research, we actually looked into not just the ASEAN region. I know the simple answer is the ASEAN region because their geographical proximity, but the reality is so much wider than that in terms of who we are working against to really be the preferred hub. It's everyone from China to even Poland, South Africa, it even goes into the Americas, if you can believe it. How come it's managed to become global, our competition? As you can see, the reasons are easy to summarize, whether it's strategic location. If I'm a United States company, it's probably going to cost me less to go to Canada than it is to fly people to set up shop in the Philippines. Language capacity, if my clientele are largely Spanish speaking, then of course I'd rather outsource to a Latin American country. Investment in talent, whether this is government investment or whether this is the company's investment in making sure that we can speak eloquently, whether we can manage customer service well, and the country campaigns I mentioned earlier. But nothing is perfect. These countries are also dealing with infrastructural issues. They're dealing with limited skill sets, cost efficiency, business integrity, limited visibility, and inconsistent messaging in politics. If that all sounded like a broken record, it should have sounded like a broken record, because the main point is the problems of our competitors are also our problems. So if we're all experiencing the same issues, what do we need to do to stand out? In short, there's a real need to build a country brand. If our competitors can have the same problems we have and still shine as investment hubs, as technological oases, then it stands to reason that we have the capacity to do something, to stand up from our own shortcomings and really be the place to be, both for the local Filipino and for the person who's coming to see just how amazing we are. It stands to reason that we have to build our brand on what we do well. We don't, unfortunately, have the right to hinge the Philippine country brand on technology because we're admittedly not there yet, and our competitors have already taken over that. We can't, for example, defeat Japan in terms of their technological capacity or for the efficiency of their infrastructure. But what we can do is market what we do very well. So what did the research say we do very well? The long-term investors know completely how our country works, and they don't seem to have an issue with it. I was discussing with Ms. Kathy earlier this afternoon how, until now, I'm shocked pleasantly at how unbothered the people we interviewed for this study were when I asked how they feel about the political situation. The truth is, every country runs in rhythms. Those who have been here understand us. They know it'll walk in and out, and they still love us for it, because at the end of the day, we're still here kicking, screaming, doing what we need to do to get what we need done. And why is this all possible? Because people associate us with determination. People associate us with placing a premium on customer service and building the relationship. It doesn't just mean ayaw nating bitawan. It means we are invested in finding the creative solutions, not simply going into the back of the book to find the reason why this isn't working or why you're not allowed to do this. We pride ourselves on preserving the relationship, and that's really part of our culture. I think we can all agree on that. So I won't dwell anymore on the issues because, as we saw earlier, we're not going to get anywhere in ranking if we focus on the issues. We need to zone in on what we are doing well. The three things that kind of stood out were that we're resilient in our problem solving, and we've seen that in large-scale issues such as how we get, wrecked by 7 typhoons every year and still manage to stand out. Our drive to innovate, and our premium on relationship building. And as you can see, these are all, they're soft skills. I hate to use that term because they're just as important as hard skills, but there's no robot here. There's no artificial intelligence here. There's no tool. There's no There's nothing you can hold or type into. It's all internal. So it stands to reason that the heart of our country brand is none other than the Filipino, is his or herself. If we want to successfully position ourselves as a place to be, we need to lead with our best asset, which is our people. And this is something that's not really new to us at Ion, where I work as a public relations practitioner. We have 4 key teams, one that works in traditional public relations, one that specializes in public affairs, one that goes digital, and one that specializes in experiential marketing, in short, what we're all going through right now in an event. And it's all come out, whether it's a multinational company or it's a local company. The best campaigns, the ones that have won us awards, the ones that have won our clients awards, are those that have really hinged on the Filipinos' ability to be creative. It was said earlier that the results, even though it was 2 years ago, continue to be relevant, and we've seen it. For example, in our proprietary research in 2018, we released the Philippine Paradox, where it was revealed that despite plummeting trust levels in various institutions, people still believe that the Philippine person has the capacity to move all of our institutions forward. And it's also come out in our latest study called Advocates of Empathy, wherein we examined the desires and drivers of Generation Z, the young ones of the Philippines, and they carry on the same sentiments that yes, there's instability amok. Our infrastructure is in dire disrepair, but there is still an unending faith that we can do better because we believe in the creativity of who we are as people. We've done quite a bit of research, and this can corroborate this. And as you can see, if we were to really think about all of the qualities that make us who we are, it's wonderful to have too many, right? For this to be a cluttered slide because it's our talents and skills, that's one of the best problems to have. It was so difficult to organize all of our talents, right? If we can kind of categorize them in 4 things, it's that the Filipino by nature is colorful, is creative, is collaborative, and is caring. And again, we don't really see the hard skills come out as prominently here as we see the soft skill, the heart come out, even though the heart can be applied in pretty much any industry where we shine. So with all of this, with our parties, with our fiestas, with our nature, with our leadership, with our industries that refuse to lose even though we're set up geographically in a place where it's quite difficult, we still endure, and it all kind of comes together in a really unique way, a quality that is a bit difficult to translate for others, as anyone who is multilingual can understand, or multicultural in their experience. But for something we as Filipinos is quite innocuous, and it should come as no surprise that that innocuous quality is the namesake of our presentation. In Filipino, we call this malasakit. There you go. We call this malasakit. Impossible to translate. If you go into the dictionary, it's some variation of empathy, caring. But as Filipinos, we know that that doesn't really do it justice what malasakit is. It's almost like malasakit is a lifestyle, or it's something we're born with. We see someone and we want to help them even though we don't know who they are because we are family. We just know we work inter-industry, even though if we think about it in terms of this, we're competitors, but if we think of it in terms of this, we're all in this together to showcase the beauty of human resources and people management. This is malasakit, and it stands to reason that it is our key differentiator, and we know this because the hundreds of people we talked to confirmed this for us. We can champion the Filipino spirit, and we can take our businesses, our people, our trees, our flora, our fauna, our food, our music, our animals, everything that we are, everything that makes us who we are, everything that people associate as just tourism, it goes so far beyond tourism. Malasakit is our key differentiator, and it's really what's going to take our businesses above and beyond to any disruptions. We've talked about artificial intelligence as a threat. No, not with malasakit at our side. Malasakit is what transforms artificial intelligence from a threat into our next best asset for why the Filipino is going to shine beyond those who are cowering in fear over what it could do. Why? Because we know that if AI takes away one job, then we have to create 3 more. If AI takes away a skill set, then we have to be more robust in this other skill set. Things like that. We can rise to new levels of potential with Malasakit. And I know this for a fact because Ms. ILeto, as one of the change makers of Sutherland in the Philippines and Malaysia and China, has lived out Malasakit to results that speak for themselves. And so to speak more about this, I'd like to call to the floor Ms. Salceda, ILeto, and thank you now, in case I forget later, for giving me your undivided attention.
I would have been actually on a personal time off po this week. You know how serendipitous and how the universe works together. Both Miss P and I and Gilbert, no, we all speak about the universe coming into play. When Gilbert called me up, Kathy, you know, I know how you are an ambassador for the Philippine country brand, selling the Philippines all over the world for the last decade, going to Australia, London, India, you know, certain countries in Southeast Asia, to sell the jobs, right? For them to provide jobs to the Philippines, set up operations here, right? Specific to ITBPM and process transformation. And you've conducted an extensive brand audit working with Eon. I used to chair the country brand audit technical working group for the ITBPM industry and has been their spokesperson for many years. I said, Gilbert, although that's a very interesting topic and something close to my heart, I have a situation. I'm actually scheduled to be out of town because I have a reunion with my Assumption, you know, college schoolmates. And a Cebuana Assumptionista is hosting it. She used to be the president of the student council. So Gilbert goes, where is it? It's in Cebu. Fantastic. Our event is actually in Cebu, Kathy. So I was really shocked, you know. I mean, what are the odds, right? So I guess the Lord really wants me to be here today, right? And so I said, you know, I'd be happy to also bring with us a subject matter expert. Just to give a bit of a context, the founder of Eon, Junie Del Mundo, unfortunately cannot make it, and I have been talking about the need for a country brand. You know, since when? Since 2007, when I was executive director for an industry association. And I said, Junie, you know, I have this problem. Every time I travel, I see the booths of India, you know, I see South Africa, I think Miss Penny, even Egypt, no? Because you've been with me in a lot of my travels all over the world. Miss Penny and I used to work together. And she and I would marvel at the, you know, support of the government, the resources thrown at all of these, you know, country initiatives. And yet the Philippines, we don't really have any brand to speak of. Being a marketer and a communicator, it's a passion, you know, within me that's been burning since like 10 years, 15 years ago. So I'm just thankful that, you know, I was given an opportunity to lead an entire community and industry. And when I was given that level of influence, I didn't, you know, throw it away. I took that as an opportunity to bring together people from government, the Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Foreign Affairs, you know, the tourism department, the private sector, all the enabling verticals that we call, no? Like telco, real estate, to be in one room. We had a lot of sessions in Makati Shangri-La. If you recall, Miss Penny, you were my subject matter expert for talent. Gilbert as well was part of that committee. And we were able to get that resources that we needed for us to come up with an extensive brand audit. And then, wearing my Sutherland hat, I've also been given an opportunity recently, an expanded role, to actually live Malasakit day in and day out. I was given this mandate to lead and drive the social impact or the corporate social responsibility initiatives for Sutherland. My job allows me to travel all over the Philippines, looking at potential locations, primarily greenfield locations, and working closely with the local government, with agencies like TESDA, the Department of Labor and Employment through their PESO offices, the academe, the universities, all of these, the community, to make sure that the talent pool is ready. The talent pool that we need to grow and to mentor, to become the next wave of Filipino talent, right, for the industry. It's my pleasure to share today how Sutherland, a process transformation company, enables a community and how the Valley of Malasakit was integrated to be part of its culture. Before I worked for Sutherland, I've been with the company for almost 7 years. The core values of the company were all foreign, right? Integrity, the usual, entrepreneurial spirit. And then I spoke to our highest ranking leader who was in charge of overseeing service delivery or operations for the Philippines and Southeast Asia. And I told him, I think, sir, we need to come up with localized, unique Filipino core values where employees will be able to, relate to, right? It needs to resonate with them. And so we came up with our own internal brand audit. This is the micro. And it came out, after speaking to a lot of the frontliners, right? A lot of the different people from the ground up, even those who are about to apply to Sutherland for a job, that there's something actually unique with regards to the culture of Sutherland across the Philippines, across our 10 sites. And again, it's Malasakit. Right? We see a lot of people, on their own, finding ways to help the community during typhoons. We have locations in Legazpi and Camarines Sur, which is always hard hit by the typical, bagyo and typhoons. And you'll see how they would go out of their way. So actually, when I was talking to my staff, I said there's a lot of examples where we exemplify Malasakit, but I will just, of course, keep to my allocated time and just share with you the recent initiatives that we've been driving and leading for Sutherland. Just an overview of who we are globally. We have been helping customers across industries from financial services to healthcare achieve greater agility through transformed and automated customer experiences for the last 30 years. We're actually headquartered in Rochester, New York. It's upstate. I'm not sure if you've been there. It's very cold during the winter. And my boss actually was telling me that Sutherland started as a back office, in Rochester, New York, and named after a necktie. It's interesting that the stripes, the diagonal print of a necktie is actually the Sutherland, the concept. So the founder of the company loved that tie, and so he named it Sutherland. And again, his vision and mission was to provide jobs in underserved communities. So globally, you'll find us in countries like Bulgaria, you'll find us even in India, but in the outskirts. In the Philippines, it's primarily a provincial model. This is the 70-30 business model that we are proud of. When other global companies would doubt the capabilities of the provincial talent, Sutherland challenged the status quo and is now the leading employer in provinces like Camarines Sur, Legazpi, Tarlac, Carmona, Clark, Pampanga, and Davao. This means we did not only contribute to job creation, we also expanded the economy of these provincial locations, and we can proudly say that we have immensely contributed to building the nation. I can name about 4 locations where after we set up shop, a Starbucks will set up shop, a 7-Eleven, an SM will, come up. Legazpi, for example, we launched it at 50 people. It's now 1,200. 50 people in 2014. And now if you go to Legazpi, my family is from Bicol. By the way, I'm from Albay. My dad is, the Salcedas are from there. You'll see that there's nothing there. Right? But now there's a lot of development. SM is putting up a big mall. Of course, there's an Ayala Mall already. You'll see a lot of hotels. No? That's just an example of the multiplier effect that we're seeing. For every BPO that set up shop in one province, you'll see a lot of these multiplier effect through the Jollibees and the McDonald's and the retail activity. From 150 employees and one client, Sutherland Philippines has grown to 10 sites and about 20,000 employees and over 40 logos or 40 clients. Recognizing that the talent resided in the provinces and the strong family roots of the Filipino workforce, we took the lead in going to emerging cities and setting up operations in what we call now the next wave cities. We are the only process transformation company that has a 70-30 business model. Actually, the roadmap, which is the blueprint of the industry, prescribed at least a minimum of 30% growth in the next wave cities. What Sutherland did was to do the opposite. 70% is a mandate from our principals to expand. So if we have a logo, we will not bring it first to our Taguig office because just like any other company, our headquarters is in Taguig, in BGC. We will not bring it first to the urban metropolis, but to the countryside. That's the priority. Okay, at least if you have 10, 7 should sit in the countryside and only 3 in the urban cities. In the area of talent, as a result of Sutherland's determination to grow in the provincial communities, Sutherland bagged a number of awards such as Employer of the Year recognitions from PESA and even from the industry. In the area of talent development and leadership management, Sutherland has been recognized consistently by the industry, the business community, and the government. These recognitions are a testament to the quality of talent here in the Philippines. Talent is the lifeblood of every community. Talent is a foundational ingredient, I always say, to a company's and community's sustainability. And that's why Sutherland, as part of our social impact strategy, focuses on talent development. It's the only way to sustain a community and your business. As an example, a testament to Sutherland's commitment to the community in Davao was a recognition that I received po on behalf of Sutherland from no less than Mayor Sara Duterte. She was there to personally hand this to me just March this year during the Araw ng Davao celebrations. Sutherland was recognized by the Davao City government for being a partner in community enablement and talent development and business development. We were the only actually awardee from the industry. There are 34,000, if I'm not mistaken, IT BPM employees in Davao across various players and competitors, but she decided to award us. It's such an honor to receive this. As part of Sutherland's malasakit efforts to enable the community, Sutherland partners with universities by providing opportunities that will enable senior high school and college graduates to have a better chance of landing a high-quality job. Sutherland offers webinars, such as how to ace a job interview and how to be a better presenter, and how to develop confidence with the goal of equipping the talent pool and job seekers. In fact, we now have 214 partner colleges nationwide. A lot of that is, of course, in partnership with the industry, and Ms. Penny can attest to this. Now, we were one of the leading supporters for our service management program. That was Ms. Penny's program. Internally, Sutherland cares for the career paths and development of its employees. To show malasakit to its employees, Sutherland strengthened its talent development to create a robust pool of leaders ready for next talent growth. So as a strategy, our management wants for us to source internally first before we expand to, headhunters, to a lot of the recruiting third-party providers. We would always look at talent within, right? It's one of our KPIs. If we're able to backfill from within. Now, at least, we're happy to share with you that about 97 actually percent of team managers and account manager roles are sourced from within. Sutherland believes that it takes the 3 C's to sustain a sound business environment and ecosystem. What are these? Country, community, company. The company takes care of the country and community first, and in turn, both country and community takes care of the company. Through Sutherland's consistent support for the local government, Sutherland has been contributing to nation building one entity at a time. We are of the belief that the value of Malasakit needs to be complemented by equally important and unique Filipino core values. And this was part of the program that I've been driving since 2015 internally in Sutherland. We came up with 3 unique Filipino core values, which is Malasakit, Bayanihan, and Descarte. Sutherland promotes Malasakit by developing programs close to the core of its business. English proficiency, for example, early on, at the primary level of education is something we decided to embark on. This program is the Mano Amiga School Partnership. Mano Amiga is a non-profit school for low-income families, where most of the students are subsidized. Sutherland sent in a SWAT team comprised of language trainers to create an English workshop to the students. English is a broad subject. The trainers of Sutherland reviewed the English curriculum and recommended to focus on the public speaking aspect of English, which is the conversational English. From this program, we involved our employees who are willing to be coaches. We were able to gather employee volunteers from various levels, from frontliners to directors and to VPs. And I also volunteered and coached a student. In fact, I brought my 13-year-old son with me every weekend. Imagine all of us would give up our Saturdays, because it's primarily a full day affair, no? To be with them, our students. For 5 straight Saturdays, both the employee volunteers and the students were eager to partner and learn from each other. The program was centered on English application, gamification of complex concepts, and development of the grade 9 students to be more confident with their public speaking skills. As a culminating program, the employee volunteers hosted an extemporaneous speaking contest and provided a tour of the Sutherland office. I'm excited to share some of the letters the students shared with us after the program. The first one was written by Stephen. Stephen was coached by our Taguig site head, Jen Kavana. Stephen was the extemporaneous speaking champion. Stephen writes, I have learned a lot, including the corrections of my grammar and vocabulary, improved my confidence for my public speaking situations, and overall for a better communication. Stephen now hosts the school events. Can you imagine that? Lovely is another student we coached. She was coached by Ren, a frontliner for one of our Fortune 500 retail accounts or programs. Lovely writes, it was my first time speaking without reading, and I just had 20 minutes of preparation time. The teachers of Lovely told us that she rarely speaks in class, but because of this activity, she now readily raises her hand and recites. Claire, which is her last example, was coached by Ronnie, who's actually part of my team. Ronnie's a graphic artist from the marketing team. Kane writes, my mentor and I had fun making a script for it pertaining to the extemporaneous speaking contest, and I'm going to miss him. Kane and Ronnie at first was, I think, a mismatch. Both were shy, but at the end of the program, they were both able to break out of their shells. So not only did Kane improve, Ronnie, I observed, also became more confident about himself. It was Malasakit when the employee volunteers shared their time for the students. Bayanihan when both the employee volunteers and students worked together, and Descarte when the training team developed the program to bridge the gap of the students. So in every social impact initiative, we find a place where we can actually exercise those three values that we're driving: bayanihan, discarte, and of course, malasakit. Let's believe in the heart of our employees from various levels. As HR practitioners like you, they are not just talented people that strive to be the best version of themselves. They also have a heart for the community. It's been a wonderful journey for Sutherland and for all of us. Our success and growth is the result of driving internal culture and consistent support from the stakeholders and the community. At Sutherland, our biggest asset is our people. As we say to every new employee at Sutherland when we onboard them, if this company is a body, then leadership, our brain, integrity is our backbone, the people, our heart, clients, our senses and lifeline, and the company core values, our soul. Over the last 14 years that Sutherland has operated in the Philippines, we have nurtured each employee through multiple touch points. With a strong belief in the Filipino talent, our efforts have focused on strengthening the Filipino ideals of bayanihan, discarte, and malasakit, and embracing these in our organization's culture. The culture of malasakit, the bayanihan between Sutherland and the local government, the change in mindset to think and act global, which is the discarte, to develop one's leadership skills, and more importantly, to have a genuine desire and commitment to give back to the community. As a final or parting words, let us continue to enable the community and champion the local talent through these values. Sutherland did and continues to do so. Thank you.
We have time for engagement with the audience, so it's your chance, it's your opportunity to either ask questions or clarifications while Adam and Kathy are here. So, yes. Oh, you can also use the... Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. So I just like to ask about the piece about branding because it was a presentation earlier. So I guess the question is, how engaged is the government in putting restrictions on how the Philippines is being branded? So I guess the question is, I heard a story, so I'll tell a story, guys. One of my friends is into the film industry, and she had a great opportunity to work with the Embassy of Korea sponsored like a Korean film industry training session for as part of its program. And one of the first things that the lecturer asked us was, why did the Philippines allow us to be shown in this movie in The Bourne Legacy with Jeremy Renner, where they showed the ugly part of the Philippines. And according to him, he says, in our country, the film industry, there's a very big restriction on being able to do that. A great example is, if you shoot films or series in Korea, they're saying is that, of course, we're going to give you a big discount in using our locations, but you're required to highlight Korean culture. You are required to show Korean, food and everything else, and also the venues, and present it in a nice light. And I guess and that's why some of their biggest exports would be, surprisingly, it's K-pop and K-drama. And even those shows, they're required to show these things as part of the show. That's why if you watch something like that, they don't show them eating in McDonald's. It's always eating local food. So do we have something like that for the Philippines, or probably in conversations?
Thank you so much. Of the technical working group that put together this whole country brand audit was to come up with a brand council. Okay? And ideally, it's supposed to be subsumed under the Office of the President. Right? In fact, my recommendations as chair of that technical working group is that it becomes like a government-owned company, like a GOC. It's operated, that way. and a neutral body, because when you put it under the tourism secretary's office, Berna's my friend, no? Berna Romolo, she's doing a great job, but if you put it under DOT, I think it would be very tourism-centric, no? If you put it under DTI, it's going to be too business-centric. It has to be, in my view, okay, under the Office of the Communication Secretary, or maybe the President can appoint a presidential advisor on country marketing, okay? Because Singapore and a lot of the countries that we've studied have these mechanisms in place, right? All of these resources. So to your point, we've been really struggling to get an audience with the right people in terms of, the influence, right, and the cloud, who has a political will to get this going. So this involves actually legislation. Anything that involves, of course, budget, resources, it has to be legislated so that the executive branch will be able to create, this kind of ecosystem. So we need to have that. One example is India, right? They do a great job when it comes to third-party, advisory firms. They have on retainer. In fact, I was sharing with them. Miss Penny and I went to NASCOM. Remember that dinner that I hosted? And they said they work closely with Washington, D.C. They have a lobby firm, and I'm talking about India, that sits in Washington, D.C. Miss Penny was with me in that conversation. We went to India 2 years ago. And I was like, Miss Penny, oh my gosh, we are nowhere near India when it comes to these, efforts, because PR, public relations, is very important, okay? When you are a country, always facing a lot of these, headwinds that we call that, challenges, the political situation, you're being demonized, right, in international media. You have a very polarized, nation. There's a lot of negativity, a lot of these. You really need to spend on a lot of public relations globally. So an ad won't, do it. Like an ad on CNN that just shows your beautiful white beaches, right? There must also be a strong PR component. So there was one initiative, in fact, not so long ago, where we engaged a lot of these executive agencies. If we can come up or earmark, for example, the Department of Trade and Industry, they will be hit hard if investor confidence is dampened because of all of these, negative publicity. So I said, why don't we get a third party, analyst group to be just coming up with white papers about the Philippines, right? So the challenge is always, I think, political will. That's one. And a champion. If you look at the other countries, they have a champion, right? You have one face. There's some form of, like a tribe that you create, right? In rallying everybody for one vision. And I think this would be a good platform. Malasakit, being a cultural and a great message is one of those that we should really work on. Plus, to your point, a public relations strategy. There must be some framework, right, in place where, if you're gonna shoot in the Philippines, don't show just the bad side. If it's important and an integral part of the plot, then also, balance it by showing, the culture, like what Korea does, right? So I think those inputs are good, Adam, as a follow-up to our initiative. I was even telling Adam that we should be engaging the HR practitioners. You're very influential, right? You're like the one really driving culture in an organization and influencing the management. So, I think people are coming together now, and I'm happy to work with, PMAP, Gilbert, in really, getting this across government, right? Because they have the resources.
Thank you, Kathy. Now, do we hear any other comments or yes, yes. Oh, please, please.
Good afternoon to everyone, to the presenters who did a wonderful presentation.
Oh, by the way, introduce yourself also.
I am Vladimir Cayabas. I am one of the city councilors of Baguio City and one of the officers of the vice president of PMAP Baguio. I came from, or still this time that I have my school, well, it was discussed about the importance of malasakit, and it's one of the things that really makes us proud as Filipinos, because that is way of life. That is actually a culture. We could not simply dictate people, telling them that you need to develop such, but it should be a way of life. Now, it is more on the role of the academy. It is because, again, we are, for example, as a corporation or as a company, as an office, we accept people who are applying. When they are qualified, they are capable. But when you speak about the bayanihan, the diskarte, and of course, the malasakit, it should be, it has a developmental process. It should be a way of life, so that at least in a way that it is not only for compliance purposes, to show that we have malasakit instead. It is a commitment that really makes us different from the rest. Well, we are under the fourth industrial revolution, but I think when we speak about branding, we speak about what is our advantage as Filipino, what is our identity. That's one thing that we need to strengthen. And thank you, because we have a group coming from the private and of course coordinating with the government sector, because at the end of the day, if that is an advantage, then we need to make, to really strengthen it, to get more advantages. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your comment. Government agency or yes. Well, at least I know a group in Malacanang working on that. And so we just have one last comment or question. So yes, Penny, yes. Oh, there. Okay, thank you. Okay.
So, good afternoon. My name is Penny. I'm the one she's been referring to. It's my fault. Yeah, it's good that you created this country brand of Malasakit, and we'd like to tell the world about it. But given our constraints with not having enough funding and not having a champion in government or government budget to really do this, what can we, because we cannot just not do anything. What can we do as individuals first, as HR in our company, and our companies do to show the world about Malasakit?
And do your own example of something you're doing in your company or elsewhere, in your home, where you are doing certain things that you're helping each other. So that's an example of malasakit. We can all do that, by the way. So that's very simple and instant. So at least from a personal point of view. And if anybody here connected with a school, a university? Yeah, exactly. You too, yes. So let me just ask you, what do you intend to do about this? From the academic side, yeah. Thank you, Penny.
Just so happen that I am also the Committee on Education in our city.
All right.
It is more on incorporating the subject. That's why we have a so-called iPad, for example, in the Department of Education, the Indigenous People's Education. But of course, we could come up with a similar subject into it. It is because we understand that all throughout the years that we had abandoned what really are as Filipinos. Now, it's time for us to gain back the original, again, status that we have. Let me cite an example. When you speak about crab mentality, we always speak about negative things. But when you try to study what the crabs are doing, yes, it's not all about pulling down. It's all about pulling up, my friends. Meaning, it's a matter of changing the mindset, the heart set. We speak about Malasaki, it is because we love our country, not because we are being given, for example, or we are given awards, but because that is way of life. Good for us to help in our simple way, be it in the government or even in the private. But when we help each other, then we could be able to advance our country into its, in a better way or in a better place. Thank you.
Thank you so much. By the way, I agree, I said, because we all know we have it, and yet we don't broadcast it. So thank you to Kathy, and thank you to Adam for the good work that you are doing. Yes. And what else? Okay.
Also, anyway, I hear and I love the conversation here. Nice that this is actually being taken up in the current session. But you know, sometimes you actually are all practicing. We're all Filipinos and we're proud, brown Filipinos, correct? We are, right? So we all have the opportunity to showcase, highlight. It's just that yung malasakit minsan na-overcome na because nahihiya tayo, right? And what a way, as HR practitioner, ako, this is really not a question, but the call to action and the challenge is, can we highlight some of your best practice? I'm sure in your little backyard, I mean, when I say little backyard, I mean your company backyard or inside the company, somebody else is doing a great malasakit work, right? Not your typical turn off the light, but somebody at the point where somebody is in dire need. When somebody is dying, you know, malasakit is actually heart, mind, and spirit. Diba? We feed people, that's physical. We pray for people, it's also a spiritual. We help people, it's something that we can do. Nandiyan eh. What we lack right now is a business case. And I call on this group for you to work all together alongside with Penny, Kathy, Aeon, and rest of us. So we form a group, and this is informal. We call it the Brand Pilipinas Malasakit. We speak a lot about who we are as a Filipino. And did you know that majority of the clients, by the way, I'm in the recruitment business, and majority of the clients that we're helping are startup organizations. They come from across the pole. You know one thing that we always are proud to say why they are here? It's not because of our intellectual capability. It's not about our physical capability. It's not because we're cheap resources, we're affordable. It's because they know that in the Philippines, there's a genuine care which doesn't have a definition. But this is all about malasakit. And we deserve, diba, to be recognized in the world. Now, the Brand Pilipinas Malasakit aims to do more research. We need more research data that we need to fill in to have a lot of business stories. Especially, a lot of you here are SMEs, local companies, diba? And what we wanted to do is fill in the story of PMAP so that we could work along with you. So we could have one big story. But yes, Malasakit is all about being a Filipino, and we're proud to be Filipino. So I enjoin everyone to join me with Kathy, ourselves, Penny, and of course Dinah and Tina, that we could do something if we only know how to, partake. Little things we can do, but yes, we should all be proud. There's one such thing that differentiates us from the others. This is all about being Filipino equals malasakit, which should be in the dictionary already, international, which says malasakit is Philippines, and we're proud to be Filipino. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. Links with the government. As that's why even bills in Congress, because we have a representative, a lawyer, a well-known lawyer. So that will be one of the things that we can bring up with the board, and they can bring it up with the representative, and then bring up this advocacy that Kathy and Adam have been working on. And therefore, Ladies and gentlemen, start your write-up or what we call your mini examples, your best practices within your company or in the community or even your home. I'm sure you're doing something that is typically Malasakit, typically the Filipino spirit. And thank you for being here. We appreciate your presence. And most of all, thank you to our wonderful, oh my God, Kathy. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Kathy. And Adam, even though he's only half Filipino and half American, but his heart is mostly Filipino. All right, Malasakit as well. So this is Tina Lewis, past trustee of PMAP, thanking everybody for being here and enjoy the rest of your day. And remember to go to we have a fellowship later, right? You know that. Yes, be there, be counted and get to know us many and get to know people so you have new friends as well. Yes, yes. And of course we have a special token for Kathy. Yes.
was still part of the group before. Okay? So that's my immediate past corporate life. So what happened was, I continued with my work. As I was driving down from Antipolo, okay, I noticed this is my driving foot eh. So my right foot was swelling. Parang sumisikip yung sapatos ko. So I told my wife, sabi ko, babe, I think sumisikip yung shoes ko. I'm not sure, but it's painful. I think nag-swell. So, but I have to continue driving because that's my driving foot. So sabi niya, okay, let's go to Makati. So we went to Makati. And what makes this day even more memorable is that was also the same day as the ASEAN Music Festival for the youth. Remember that time when Makati was closed? Diba? There was a concert, then it got cancelled kasi rowdy daw ng mga tao. There were accidents and all. It was the same time. So, to my surprise, everything in Makati Med is full. So I arrived in Makati. Remember, I'm from Antipolo. I picked up my wife in Mandaluyong, where we live. And then we drove to Makati Med. So, ewan ko ba, loyalista kasi ako ng Makati Med. Diba? So there. So, we drove there. And then we were queuing up. The nurses were very patient, highly professional. They were asking, from the scale of 1 to 10, sir, what's your level of pain? Diba? So yeah, so it's nice. So it was a fairly good experience. Everyone was treated very objectively at all. And so therefore, paalis na ako ng hospital roughly about 1 o'clock. I don't have a choice. I'm the only one who knows how to drive. I have to drive na meron akong bandage sa paa. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so this is my medical certificate. Of course, it's not readable pala, no? I thought it would be. So there. So I was asked to be hospitalized, to be on bed rest for 3 days. Remember, in less than a week, I'm running the group-wide HR Congress. Diba? So it was fun. Okay? So just as we were about to exit, so this is my wife. And then, so nangyari, we were laughing because I told her, alam mo babe, I'm learning a new skill. For the first time, I think if I'm going to the office, I have to learn how to operate a wheelchair. Hirap pala yun. You remember how to make turns and all? You have to put a stop on one so that it will turn to the right or left. So that was fun for me. And we were laughing. Okay. Lo and behold, while all of this process is taking place, one nurse in Makati Med fainted. There were too many people there. Remember from the rowdy Makati incident? So where would people go? Makati Med din, diba? And ito naman si Jeremy, nakisawsaw pa sa crowd of those who were rowdying that concert. So we went there, okay? We queued, we lined up, we were laughing, we were waiting for our discharge papers and all. We were happy. This nurse fainted. And without anything, you know what? The other nurses helped this person and the operations remained smooth. That's why I really like Makati Med. So that was kindness. They never blamed this girl. I remember, siguro kung ako yun, ang daming queue, ano ba, ngayon ka pa nagkasakit? Diba? Imagine, we're all trying to make the most of everything. We were calling in doctors back to be able to report because there are many accidents happening. So, but then, no one word of blame. They were just telling this nurse, ang bibo mo kasi, chillax lang tayo. Okay? Ganon. That's how comforting the nurses were. On the other side, there was somebody, and ano to that's why it hit me. It's not for everyone. This person is working in a fast food, still in his uniform. Okay? He was rushed by potentially a supervisor there. Kasi nagsusuka. Okay? And I don't know if the person brought his own food or the food was supplied by the store. Kasi diba meron kang partner usually if you work with this 24 hours fast food chain. I'm not naming names. Marami po yun, okay? So yeah, and then I heard the loudspeaker call from the branch manager telling them, kailan ka ba babalik dito? Anong gagawin natin dyan? Sabi niya, sino sasagot niyan? Ako ba sasagot niyan? Wala yung HMO. And so my heart bled. Sabi ko sa'yo, hindi nakatakutan ko my biggest fear coming is I would cry. This happened 2017. So my heart bled. So, okay? Because there was this guy in pain, sumusuka. Sabi pa niya, And di ko gusto magpadala sa Makati, mahal dito eh. Pero sige, huwag ka mag-alala, boss. I will pay for my own. I'll find a way to pay. Okay. So, what's really good? And then this supervisor is torn between, iiwan ko ba ito? Wala pa yung family and all eh. And then this person is again calling back. So literally, I binulot ko whatever money's left minus the 50 pesos parking fee. and brought it directly. But then I was bothered. Okay? I was able to ask for the name. I documented everything. I reached out to PMAP President Ponce Exmundo. Kasi PMAP President siya, right? So that this case is known to the HR head of this person. They responded, but it pained me. I mean, what if palit kami ng situation? I was living in minimum wage, most likely, from that place wherein my residence is quite far. Makati did not reject the guy, That was even a more comforting fact for me. They did not even bother to know whether this guy can pay or not. They simply serviced, and they would talk to this person after first aid. If they can, they would refer. That's the normal process, but never reject a patient. Okay? And they did that. Okay? Or they would put it into charity case or whatever, so they made it happen. Okay? But then this company, nagsuka on your premise, dinala sa hospital, telling you, when are you coming back? They responded. But that opened a portion of my heart, telling me, we all say we're Christians, we're kind people, but it's not. On the other side, the event was successfully launched because people volunteered to even help me. What touched my heart, one of my best friends there, sabi niya, he lives in Taytay, which is near Antipolo where we work. He would pick me up at my place because I couldn't drive in Mandaluyong, just so we can go to the office together. Okay, secure the wheelchair for me so that I can drive on my own while in the office. So it was a fun experience. So imagine 3 layers of kindness. You have an institution committed to care, not rejecting a patient, supporting without blaming your teammate. You have an organization who supported also an injured teammate na na-accidente 2 days after his birthday. And you have another organization blaming the person for being there, hugas kamay, saying we are not comfortable, and even asking the person on his own volition who brought that person in the hospital and telling that person, balik ka na, it's Julia. What does that tell us? Many. So, until now, it's a big one. So, kindness. The criteria for me is keep it real. I mean, sabi nga sa inyo, I'm an introvert, so it's hard to talk about personal things, and I'm talking about personal things, no? So, but we can talk about work, sabi nga ni Robert Calapin. Introspect and be grateful. The reason why we can be kind is somewhere along the line, we know we benefited from something. And I trace the back experiences I have from UANP giving me scholarships, to my dad working hard to send me to school, from being able to get those perk opportunities because people gave me that shot, from landing into training because I accidentally presented in Malacanang. So all of these are opportunities. And if you're filled with gratitude, diba? How can you say no to anybody who's in need? And now and stay in the present. Okay? Thank you for those who really stood their ground. I know we're time's up now, pero you're still with me up to this point. And really trying to savor the experience. Okay? In that whole day of being in the speaker's lounge, crunching numbers, I met 6 wonderful and beautiful people, including Robert. And I was able to benefit from their stories. Okay? So, thank you, PMAP. This is an enriching experience for me as well. And D, dialogue always. Be open, connect. Kindness is free. It doesn't require much giving gifts, as we've seen in the survey. All that is left is for us to do something probably unexpected, something that connects to the human heart. Okay? And when we do that, the power is immense, and it's really magical. So, probably, if I meet Michael, I would tell him, I'm with you, I'm also seeking human kindness. And Filipinos, do we have that? Yes, there's a place for malasakit before this, to those who are in the same room. And yes, we all have that in us, because we are loving people from the Philippines. So let me leave you with this video telling you that kindness goes around, comes around. Yeah, so one day we will all be in an opportune situation to help and be kind. So, and I think it doesn't have to wait for one more day. In your particular time where you are right now, be an instrument for kindness, act and help. And just for your information, November 13 is globally the World Kindness Day. A day after my birthday. So, yeah, so advance Happy Kindness Day to everyone. I hope you pick up something. And thank you for listening to an important portion of my life. Salamat po.
Thank you, Sir Jeremy. So, I know we extended much of our time, but it's very, we're very happy that you were really staying on your seats. And just to synthesize what we learned for today, really kindness is something sometimes subjective to what we believe in. Sometimes we choose not to be kind because we feel that someone is not kind to us. As a research said and presented a while back, people has difficulty of feeling what is kind and feeling or experiencing kindness from other people. Now my challenge is, be the one person or be part of that 1% that when we go back to our respective organizations, when we go back to our community, maybe we can be conscious of doing one single act of kindness in a single day, maybe 1% of kindness in a single day, and hopefully that we do it consistently and we impact someone's life in just 1% on a daily basis. Again, thank you so much for attending this session, and for a simple token of appreciation for the kindness of Sir Jeremy Pintor, on behalf of People Management Association of the Philippines, we would like to present this simple token coming from our Cebuanos. I hope that this would mean a lot to you, sir, for being kind to our session. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.